We're going to be talking about today how we have someone that could be dressed up in incredibly ugly clothing, and he could just look like some nobody, some fool, some strange person. He could look like someone that you never want to speak to, someone you want to avoid down the street. But then all of a sudden, he could put on a nice suit and tie, and he looks like $1,000,000. It's like, wow, that guy, I need to talk to him. I need to get on his good side. I don't know his name, but maybe something's in it for me. So you see, this is very important for our understanding about Moshiach, because it says, Lo yikonef oid meirecha. When Moshiach comes, your master will no longer hide from you with any clothing. That's what Rashi explains this verse in the prophets, that your master will no longer have to hide from you with clothing. Now, what's your master and why is he hiding you from with clothing? So this refers both to God and also to us in our personal lives. You see, our master obviously is God, and hiding from us with clothing is all the concealments he made that we can then experience free choice in this world. We just don't see godliness. And when Mashiach comes, we're not going to have any of those concealments. We're just going to see godliness. But also in us, what's a master over a person? A person's master, the decision maker, is his mind, his brain. Well, hopefully at least. And therefore, that's what's making decisions in his life. But that could be sometimes he has to cover it over. You see, sometimes the decision making, the mind or the heart, some people are making decisions based on their heart. You know, they get really excited when they see a donut and they start running. So you make decisions based on your mind or your heart, but sometimes you have to cover that over. Because if your mind is looking and like, this guy, I just can't do it. You know, you're going to have to cover that over with some clothing. We're going to talk about what that clothing is. And you're going to have to like act nice or speak nice or try to block out the thought by thinking something nice. Or what about your feelings? You're walking past the donut shop and you're like, I really need that donut. You've got to cover those over. You see, a person has many different emotions. They have love, attraction to things. They have fear, severity, the restraint of being held back. And sometimes that's a good thing. And sometimes it's a bit of a problem. You know, if you're scared of spiders and it's by your wedding and you're on the video, you're about to break the cup, and then you see a teeny tiny spider on the wall, and you better not stop screaming. You know, you got to cover over those emotions sometimes. It's a very strange thing to say nowadays. So what do you cover them over? You have to clothe them. You have to dress it up. How do you dress it up? Well, there's 3 types of dress-ups for the soul. There are thoughts, there is speech, and there is action, meaning that I could be feeling right now annoyed, tired, in need of a massive caffeine dose, and nevertheless I could cover it over and give a very exuberant, I could speak very interesting topics about Mashiach. I can be acting very exuberant and standing up giving this shir, and more so, I can decide to ignore those feelings and think something on top of that. So what do we see? That all of us are dress-ups now. We're like clowns on Purim. We're right now dressed up, covering over our emotions. Now, when the Alter Rebbe taught this, he actually brought 2 examples of how your dress-ups can change what's on the inside. You can have someone who's a very stupid person, let's say, a very foolish person, a person who has no ability to think of a single logical thought. But then he's going to sit down and take out a cheat sheet and study a book of one of the great intellectuals of our times. And what will happen? He'll stand up to give a speech, repeating word for word the things that he barely understood, and he'll sound genius. He'll sound brilliant. The guy who a moment ago you thought was a dumbbell, you're like, wow, how did he get so smart? He didn't get so smart. He covered it over. The inside, the mind, was covered by the speech on the outside. He hid himself. He's a poor man in rich man's clothing. Incredible. Now, also, the Alter Rebbe actually brings another very interesting example about how you can be a bad guy, a monster, but you can go and cover that over, those feelings that you just walk around wanting to kill everyone. I hope, look, you should definitely get some help. But until you get help, please cover that over with some kind actions. So you could be a bandit, a robber, a highwayman. In Australia, they call it a bush ranger. You guys ever heard of that? But if you go and do something nice, everyone's like, hey, here's a nice guy. No one even knows you're a bad guy. As a matter of fact, I heard something very interesting. That in the Great Depression, there were a lot of people out of jobs and didn't have food. So there was a very noble man in Chicago who stood up. That was one of the big American cities that had a massive crisis because of the economy fell through. And he made a soup kitchen. There's actually pictures in the newspaper, you can see it up here, of free donuts and coffee. And the big, on the front of the newspaper, people lining up for free donuts and coffee because they didn't have $1 to their name. All sorts of people, all different races, religion, cultures, backgrounds. And everyone's just giving out to free. What a nice person. Front page of the newspaper. Unemployed flock to soup kitchen. Between 2,100 and 2,800 jobless people given 3 meals daily for the past 3 weeks. Wow. Who is this great philanthropist? Who is this great man? He should get the Nobel Prize for Peace. Sponsored by... Run by Al Capone. Wow. The arch nemesis of the police. The gangster, mobster, man with blood on his hands who went around murdering others. By the way, he once got his gang to dress up as policemen, then went to another gang's like factory where they all worked as a cover for their activities, and they said this is a police raid. Everyone line up against the wall, and then they shot them all. So he's a evil, terrible, bad person, but when he does something good, no one knows that because it's covered over by his dress up of being good. Is that a bad thing? I think it would be better if he covered it over all the time. I think it's very good. You know, the action is the main thing. But we find something very interesting, that thought, speech, and actions, the outer part of a person, can cover over, hide, and completely disguise the inside. So what do we see over here? That right now we're all playing dress up, but when Moshiach comes, then the inside will be good. When Moshiach comes, we'll only have good ideas. We'll only have good feelings, and we can just be ourselves. We won't need to dress up. Just everyone will be good on the inside, and then we'll express goodness to the outside. So this is also going to happen. Remember we spoke in the beginning about when Mashiach comes. Right now, Hashem is covered. We don't see Hashem. When Mashiach comes, he'll be revealed, because it says actually in the verse that in Psalms, you ready for this? For a sun and a shield is Hashem your God. So what does that mean? A sun shines, a shield blocks, because usually the sun is shining. But when you have an eclipse, actually, you know why an eclipse happened? You guys remember the eclipse? Everyone was buying those junky glasses over there to look at it. So that's when you have the sun on one side, and you get something blocking it. You can have a partial eclipse if the moon's blocking it. You can have a full eclipse if the sun goes on the other side of the earth, and you have the rest of the earth blocking it from your view. So the sun can be shielded. So right now, the sun, Hashem's revelation, is shielded, is hidden. And also ourselves, the inside is shielded, hidden by our outside, by our outer layers, by our externality. But when Mashiach comes, it says, you know what it says? That lo yakun afod mirecha. Your master will no longer be hidden from you. Both Hashem will be revealed, and our inside will be revealed, because we'll only have good on the inside. But now, let me tell you something very interesting. Now that we discussed this whole idea and this whole concept that Alter Rebbe brought, why did he bring 2 examples? We had that whole thing about like the dumb guy who says smart stuff and the mean guy who acts nice. Why do you have 2? So the reason is actually because there's 2 different parts of the person that run him. There's intellect, and that can be covered over by saying smart things. And then there's also emotions, that those can be covered over by doing good things. For example, let's say someone takes a coin and gives it to a poor man. You're like, wow, what a great person. And then you look up, you're looking at the hand, putting the coin in the charity box, and you look up at the end of the hand and you see Stalin, and you're like, oh my God, he's a monster. He killed 30 million people. Because how could such a thing happen? How do you think he was a good guy for a second? Because he can be covered over. The bad on the inside can be covered over from the outside. So we see there's actually like a kind of a superpower of the externality of a person. We like to say, external, I don't like that. Let's all be inner. Let's be who we are on the inside. But there's something very powerful of the outside that you can show to the outside good things, smart, good, and therefore you can experience that, and that's the effect you can have in the world no matter what's going on the inside. So far in this class, we discussed something very important, and the reason that society hasn't collapsed is because people don't always express whatever's going on the inside. But it's also kind of sad reality. We're saying, fake it till you make it, just be the outside. But here's something amazing. Think about this. Let's talk about those 2 examples. With the guy with not too smart, where's our not too smart guy? Oh yeah. If he goes and he repeats over the words of a wise man once, and then he reads another speech from a wise man and repeats it over, and then reads another lecture of a wise man and repeats it over, he's going to start to pick it up. He's going to start to get the hang of it. His brain's going to start to be like, that's starting to make sense to me. Before you know it, he will get smart. Or let's talk about our bad guy, yeah? You have Al Capone giving charity. You have Stalin giving charity. That didn't happen, but Al Capone gave some charity. And if he would keep doing that, and he'd invest himself, imagine if he just got a job at a soup kitchen and he was busy with that all day and all night. Before you know it, it would start to resonate with him. He'd be so invested in it. That's all he'd be interested in. when people invest themselves in something, when people are doing something or saying something or thinking something, it starts to affect the inside. Isn't that interesting? It says in the Kabbalah, well, not really, it's more in books of Musar. Achrei ma'asim nimshku halavavis. Feelings are attracted to your actions. For example, I once made a video online about ice cream. Everyone should watch it. It's good stuff. But when you graduate yeshiva. So I was walking down the road a week later. I saw a boy, a guy who was in my class some years ago. He stops me. He's like, "Why are you ruining my business?" I'm like, "I didn't know you have a business. I didn't know I'm ruining it." The guy's like 18. Like, he's impressive. He has a business. What happened? He got a job in an ice cream store. And I made a video making fun of ice cream. There's a very physical, lowly attraction. So he thought I was ruining his business. Now, what I found interesting, what he said was obviously a joke. And in retrospect, it may have even been funny. But what was fascinating was, from getting a job, a garbage entry-level job of working making the snow cone, you know what I'm saying? He's getting paid minimum wage there. The fact that he was doing that every day made him feel that this is my ice cream store. Ice cream is what I represent. Ice cream is my life. I will put up the ice cream flag in front of my window. I will move to Alaska so that the ice cream shall never melt. Because he was invested in it, in action, therefore he started to feel it on the inside. He started to believe in it. He changed his emotions and his intellect. So that's what happens. When you are doing good things, even if you're a nasty guy on the inside, soon that's going to change. When you are thinking positive things, when you're thinking intellectual things, when you're thinking Torah things, the inside's going to change. So what do we find? It's not only when Mashiach will come, will our intellect and our emotions be good. We can start that process now. We can cause that process now. The more Torah you learn, the more godly, good, and better, and smarter, and higher is your mind going to be. The more mitzvahs you do, the more good deeds you do, the better your emotions will be. The less hatred and the more love for your fellow you feel. The more love for God you'll feel. And after we do this and make the change in ourselves, that will very speedily bring forth the time that everyone will experience Lo Yakana Fed Merecha. Your master will no longer be hidden from you. That only the inside is fully good, and we can just be who we are, because who we are will be good. And we can just live with Hashem, because Hashem will be revealed in our lives. Okay, let's get to work. Hello.